2 wins. That's what separated the Boston Celtics from their first title since 2008. Deteriorating health, general fatigue, and inexperience set in for Boston, allowing the Warriors to remind the world who they are. There's no shame in losing to the NBA's latest dynasty. Instead, the Celtics organization should move with a greater understanding of what a champion looks like. Nearly 2 months removed from Game 6, Brad Stevens has done just that, grabbing accomplished veterans in Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari without losing a single major rotation piece. I won't lie to you, both of these guys come with imperfections. Gallo is 34 and has some miles on him. Brogdon has struggled with injuries. The good news is that Boston is deep and can give plenty of rest along with a more manageable scoring load for these two. But what about the rest of the roster? This question brings us to the real focus of this video. I'd like to talk about 3 areas for internal development that can make this team extremely dangerous. Let's get into it. Rob Williams fought through the playoffs on one good knee and still had a massive impact. The NBA world knows what he can do as a versatile shot blocker, dangerous lob threat, and an excellent offensive rebounder, but the Celtics have yet to unleash the most underrated aspect of his game, the passing. Rob reads the floor exceptionally well and recognizes passing windows before they've opened. That's not a trait that most shot-blocking lob catchers possess. The bulk of his playmaking responsibility is a healthy dose of dribble handoffs with a dash of work from the top of the key. I'd like to see Coach Udoka give more reps with the latter. The key is that he pulls opposing big men out of the paint. As a non-shooter, you just sag off him, right? Not really, because then it flows into a dribble handoff in an open pull-up 3. On top of that, he happens to be exceptional on the short roll. Rob will look off an opponent before slinging the ball to an open shooter, and if he gets more comfortable putting the ball on the floor in these scenarios, trapping Tatum and Brown gets taken off the table a bit. He's not quite there yet, but that's another reason why more reps are needed. On the rare occasion where Rob was given a larger playmaking role, it ended up very successful. In a New Year's Eve matchup against the Suns, who were 27-8 at the time, Williams recorded the first triple-double of his career with 11, 10, and 10. This was a nice glimpse at how dynamic the Celtics offense can get with Williams as the focal point. He's not a flashy passer, just an effective one, finding weak points in the defense and punishing them. Watch these next 2 plays. It's the same action both times, with Smart slipping to the rim to counter the Suns' switch. Rob makes the correct read both times with Brown popping out and Smart throwing the hand up like Randy Moss. We even got the very rare Rob Williams attack off the dribble here, which resulted in a Jaylen Brown mid-range jumper. Just gets it done in so many different ways, making it easy to envision him with a larger playmaking role. Ultimately, we're looking at a perennial all-defense player with room for significant offensive growth. The Celtics would be wise to continue investing in that with additional reps next season. Picking up a ball handler like Brogdon may seem like a move in the opposite direction of that, but I think it makes it even more viable, as Brogdon is a great playmaker on drives, and Rob's vision would weaponize that on cuts. If you couldn't tell by now, I'm high on Rob Williams' potential, but this is deeper than that. It's a strategic opportunity to expand the Celtics' offensive attack, and one that I hope they explore. The next developmental area that I'd like to touch on is a player that I expect to really shine this season, Derrick White.
Mr. White, Mr. White, Mr. White, Mr. White, Mr. White, Mr. White, Mr. White.
2 things are true. White struggled at times with his shot, and the Celtics couldn't have flipped a switch without him. Most of these struggles I attribute to joining a team at the trade deadline after playing for the Spurs his entire career. And that's why I'm so certain that with a full offseason and training camp, Derrick White is destined for a strong year. All you need is a brief look through White's Spurs tape to see a different level of comfort and aggression in his offensive approach. He was taking jumpers off the dribble and fearlessly attacking the rim. We saw that mindset occasionally in Boston, but he needed more time to find his place in the system. Those flashes were very noteworthy, however, because he looked like an ideal connective player on both ends. Offensively, he was worthy of on-ball playmaking duties, and he picked up the basic off-ball actions quickly. Defensively, he was a great fit as a bigger guard capable of switching across multiple positions. Strangely enough, some of White's usual defensive dominance didn't fully translate. On the Spurs, Derrick played in 49 games and faced 0.9 possessions per game as an isolation defender. He let up a ridiculously low 0.49 points per possession, with players shooting just 21.9%. In 26 games in Boston, the possessions went up to 1.1 per game, and he gave up 1.29 points per possession on 56.5% from the field. It's a small sample size, but paints a good picture of who Derrick White is and how he got away from that in Boston. I'd like to see him play with more confidence moving forward. This is not a call for White to step out of his comfort zone, but instead to get back in it. This is also not an indictment on White as a player, because the numbers don't lie. He is an exceptional complement to the team's stars. In 20 playoff games, the Celtics' best three-man lineup featured Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. In 277 playoff minutes, they had an offensive rating of 105.8, an incredible 95.9 defensive rating, and a team-high 9.8 net rating. In 20 regular season games, that trio went 16-4 with an unreal 126.3 offensive rating, 104 defensive rating, and the team's second best net rating of 22.3. This was sandwiched between two lineups that also featured Derrick White. By nature, he is an unselfish player and does all of the little things that makes everyone around him better, like a timely cut to free up a shooter, or operating as the roll man in the pick and roll. It's time for him to seek out his own offense and become the two-way force that we know he can be. This would put him firmly in contention for Sixth Man of the Year alongside Malcolm Brogdon. Year 2 for Derrick White should be a good one. Moving on to our final topic for this video, let's talk about The Other Guys. While it's an excellent film, I'm referring to the Celtics reserves. As we've discussed already, Boston's bench is littered with talent. There's players deserving of a larger role, and some looking to prove themselves. 2 returning Celtics headline each of those groups, Grant Williams and Payton Pritchard. Both players were key contributors at different points in the Celtics' run. Pritchard had his moments as a spark plug, knocking down timely shots, while Grant brought great value as a defender. And of course, we'll always remember his Game 7 explosion to send the Bucks on vacation. Their situations are similar, with new additions threatening to steal their playing time, despite encouraging postseasons from both. Pritchard's path to a rotation spot is tough, with 3 strong guards ahead of him in the depth chart. Grant has it a bit easier because he's versatile enough to play with many groups, and the depth at his position is thinner. Pritchard made it clear that he's going to work for a larger role, and if he's patient, minutes will free up, whether it's from injuries or rest. If he accepts the circumstances in front of him, there will not be a better fourth guard in basketball. With his three-point shot making, craftiness, and tenacious defense, the Celtics won't miss a beat when they're down a few players and need to elevate Pritchard to a larger role. Stay ready, Payton. The minutes will come. With Grant, he's still going to be an every-night player, but that shouldn't stop him from improving. In his current form, Williams is one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league, especially at his price point. But the finals revealed that he'll need to be more dynamic offensively to impact the game how he should. While adding a pull-up game would be nice, the realistic path for Grant to develop is attacking closeouts. It only happened occasionally during the season, but when he does drive a closeout, it looks pretty good, because he's strong and can take a bump at the rim. The shooting is real for Grant, and teams will have to start respecting that more. As that happens, his opportunities to attack will increase, and he'll be a bit less predictable, and as a result, more impactful offensively. Pritchard and Grant are the 8th to 10th man in Boston's rotation, which says a lot about the strength of this team from top to bottom. If they bring the right attitude and continue to expand their games, Udoka will reward them with minutes. There are plenty of factors that will determine the Celtics' overall success this season, but expanding Rob Williams' playmaking responsibility, getting a more comfortable Derrick White, and Pritchard and Grant growing despite their sacrifice are the 3 areas that I'm looking for. If you made it to this point in the video, thanks for watching, and let me know if you agree with my picks or anything else that you'd add. That's all for now. Peace.